Hello friends. If you were born before 1966, meaning you're 60 or older right now, I need you to stay with me until the end of this video, because Service Canada does not apply the same rules to everyone. Depending on the year you were born, your CPP options are different, your OAS timeline is different, and right now there's a specific deadline tied to 2026 that could actually suspend a payment some of you are currently receiving if it's missed. Here's the situation. CPP and OAS aren't one-size-fits-all programs. Whether you're 61, 67, or 74 changes what decisions are even in front of you, what mistakes are still fixable, and what mistakes are already permanent. And on top of that, there's a real administrative deadline landing in 2026 that affects the guaranteed income supplement specifically, one that catches people off guard every single year because almost nobody explains it in plain language before it happens. Today I'm going through this by age group. Find where you fall, listen to what applies to you specifically, and by the end of this video you'll know exactly what to check in your own situation. Stay to the end because the last section is the deadline I mentioned, and it applies to every single group I'm about to cover, regardless of your age. Before we get into the groups, if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that now and turn on the bell. Here's why it genuinely matters for something like this. CPP and OAS amounts change every quarter, the clawback threshold shifts every year, GIS gets recalculated annually based on your tax return, and Service Canada does not call you up to walk you through what changed. They adjust the numbers and expect you to already know. What I do here is take those changes and explain exactly what they mean for your specific age and situation, before a deadline passes or a decision becomes permanent. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and let's get into it. Group 1, born 1956 or earlier. You're 70 or older right now, ***. If you're in this group, both your CPP and your OAS decisions are behind you. Neither program lets you delay any further than age 70, which means by now you should be receiving your maximum available amount on both. That's exactly why this group needs to check something most people never think to verify. Is the amount actually landing in your account the maximum you're entitled to? Start with OAS. There's an automatic 10% top-up that applies the moment you turn 75, permanently increasing your monthly OAS payment on top of the standard rate. As of the most recent quarter, the standard OAS maximum sits at roughly $743 a month for ages 65 to 74, and jumps to around $817 a month once that 75 plus top-up applies. This is supposed to happen automatically with no application needed, but if you're 75 or older and you're not sure whether it actually kicked in, it's worth logging into your My Service Canada account or calling 1-800-277-9914 to confirm. Next, if you're widowed, there's something specific to check on the CPP side. The CPP survivor's pension is a separate benefit from your own retirement pension, and depending on your income and your late spouse's contribution history, you may be entitled to receive both at the same time, up to a combined maximum. A significant number of surviving spouses in this age group have never actually asked Service Canada to run the calculation on what a survivor's pension would add to their own CPP. If you lost a spouse and never specifically requested this comparison, call and ask them to calculate it directly. Finally, this group should double-check GIS and the allowance for the survivor if applicable. These are income-tested and recalculated every single year, which means an amount that was correct 2 years ago may not be correct today, especially if your income has changed. Group 2, born between 1957 and 1960. You're between 66 and 69 right now, ***. This is one of the most financially important groups in this entire video, because if you haven't started CPP or OAS yet, you are sitting inside the deferral window right now, and the clock on that window closes permanently at age 70. Here's how the math actually works. For every month you delay CPP past age 65, your payment increases by 0.7%, which compounds to roughly 8.4% more per year. Wait the full 5 years to age 70, and your CPP payment is permanently 42% higher than what it would have been at 65 for the rest of your life. On a payment of $1,000 a month at 65, that's an extra $420 a month, every month, for as long as you live, simply for waiting. OAS works on a similar but separate schedule. Delaying OAS past 65 increases your payment by 0.6% for every month you wait, up to a maximum 36% increase if you hold off until age 70. On a $743 monthly OAS payment, waiting the full 5 years brings that up to roughly $1,010 a month, again, permanently. Here's what almost nobody tells you plainly: this decision is not automatic, and Service Canada will not push you to delay. If you're in this age range and haven't applied yet, you need to actively decide, based on your health, your other income, and how long you realistically expect to need this money, whether waiting makes sense for you. If you're already collecting and wondering whether you made the right call, the decision is done and can't be undone, but it's worth knowing exactly where your payment sits relative to the maximum so nothing else about your situation slips through unchecked. For those of you in this group still working while collecting, remember that CPP contributions made after you start your pension can still increase your payments slightly through the post-retirement benefit, added automatically each January for any year you had valid contributions. You don't need to apply separately for that one, but it's worth knowing it exists, so a rising CPP deposit doesn't confuse you. Group 3, born between 1961 and 1965. You're between 61 and 65 right now, ***. This is the group facing the single most consequential decision in this entire video, and it's happening right now for many of you, whether to start CPP early, at the standard age of 65, or somewhere in between. Here's the number that matters most. If you start CPP as early as age 60, your payment is permanently reduced by 0.6% for every month before your 65th birthday, which adds up to a full 36% reduction if you start at exactly 60. On a benefit that would have been $1,000 a month at 65, starting at 60 locks you into roughly $640 a month for life. That's not a temporary discount that corrects itself later. It's the number you're stuck with permanently, the same way it works in reverse for delaying. Service Canada will process an early application without walking you through what that reduction means in real dollar terms over 20 or 30 years. They'll confirm you understand the payment is reduced, you say yes, and that becomes your number. At the same time, there are real reasons people in this group choose to start early anyway. Health, ongoing income needs, or simply wanting the certainty of payments now rather than a promise of more later, are all legitimate factors. The point isn't that early CPP is wrong. The point is that this decision is permanent and irreversible, and it deserves more thought than a 5-minute phone call. If you're in this group and turning 65 soon, remember that OAS is a separate application and a separate decision from CPP, on its own timeline. Many people in this age range are automatically enrolled for OAS, and Service Canada typically sends a notification letter the month after your 64th birthday confirming that. If you'd rather defer OAS past 65 to grow the payment, you need to actively decline that automatic enrollment, because it will otherwise start on its own. And regardless of when you plan to start either benefit, this is the single best time to log into your My Service Canada account and check your CPP contribution history line by line against your own records. An employer that underreported your earnings decades ago, a self-employed year that wasn't recorded properly, these things reduce your eventual payment, and they're far easier to correct now, while you still have time, than after you've already started collecting. The urgent 2026 warning that applies to every single group, the GIS filing deadline, ***. Here's the part of this video that's specific to 2026 and specific to right now. If you or a family member receives the Guaranteed Income Supplement, the allowance, or the allowance for the survivor, Service Canada recalculates those amounts every single July, based on the tax return from the previous year that's on file with the CRA. This year, that recalculation depends on your 2025 tax return being filed by the standard April 30th deadline. If it isn't on file in time, GIS and the related allowance payments can be suspended starting with the July deposit, not reduced, suspended entirely, until the return is filed and processed. This catches people every single year, and it catches a specific group especially hard, seniors with little or no income who assume that because they don't owe any tax, filing a return isn't necessary. That assumption is exactly backwards. Even with zero income, you must file every year to keep GIS running without interruption. If your income dropped between 2024 and 2025, filing on time could also mean a higher GIS payment starting in July, so there's an upside to getting this right, not just a downside to getting it wrong. If you're not certain whether your return has been filed, or whether it's been received and processed by the CRA, this is worth confirming directly rather than assuming it's been taken care of. The fix here is simple but time-sensitive. File your tax return every single year, even with no income to report, well ahead of the April 30th deadline. If you're helping an elderly parent or relative with their taxes, this is the one thing on this entire list worth circling on a calendar, because a missed filing doesn't just delay a payment, it stops it outright until corrected. Let's bring it all together, asterisk asterisk. If you were born in 1956 or earlier, confirm your 75+ OAS top-up actually applied, and if you're widowed, ask Service Canada to calculate whether a CPP survivor's pension would add to what you're currently receiving. If you were born between 1957 and 1960, understand exactly what you gain by delaying CPP and OAS toward age 70, since every month of delay is worth real, permanent money. If you were born between 1961 and 1965, understand that starting CPP early is a permanent reduction, not a temporary one, and check your contribution record now while errors are still easy to fix. And regardless of which group you're in, if GIS, the allowance, or the allowance for the survivor applies to your household, make sure your tax return is filed every year, on time, without exception. None of these programs call you to explain what changed or what you're missing. The information exists, but you have to go find it, and in the case of GIS this year, you have to file on time or the payment simply stops. That's genuinely the difference between staying on top of this and finding out the hard way. If this video helped you, please subscribe and share it with someone you know who's on CPP or OAS, a parent, an older sibling, a neighbor. One conversation can protect someone's income for years to come. I'll see you in the next one.